Hey, what's up? Sunny here with the HomeX Podcast. I have my two wonderful guests here, Nathan and Nikki, willing to share their stories on what it takes to become a first-time home buyer in this market. And it's actually hit their one-year anniversary, so happy one-year anniversary, Nathan and Nikki.
Yay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Could you just share a little bit about, what you guys currently do right now for work?
Yeah, I am a government contractor, so I work for the Department of Defense, and it's been about almost 4 years now.
I'm a doctor of physical therapy, currently at Sharp Memorial, so doing acute care. Been doing that about 3 years now. And then also just on the side, fun, I DJ, or I guess you could
yes.
say.
Oh, yeah, we do.
We
Yes.
DJ.
Yes, yeah. So
What's your
little
guys'
side
DJ?
hustle.
They might know you out there.
Nix and
Navs.
Yeah.
Let's go. I enjoy your guys' posts on DJ, and we definitely have some mutual friends there that are posting
Oh, yeah.
about you on their IG stories. So you guys are killing it out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you guys for making time out tonight. I know it's been a year, and I hope you can still remember back on what it was like to, purchase your first home. And I'd love to hear more on, the decision to buy a home. Like, how did that come about for you guys? Like, when did you decide it was the right time to buy?
Did you want to start, or?
You can start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think as we, progress in our relationship, at the time we we're both living with our parents, and we were deciding, hey, what does it look like to move out together, whether that's renting or buying.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't really have any, I guess you'd say, deliberate plan to say, hey, let's go and buy and, start that process. But we met up with our good friend CJ, just to get a pulse of what it looks like for that process. And we just wanted to tell him, like, hey, our goal, let's say in 2 to 3 years we want to buy, or what does that look like, the trajectory for that, like how much should we be saving,
like how to prepare for
what's that
it.
process even look like, and that's basically kind of what initiated the home buying process for us, because he kind of just showed us the first steps about saying, hey, let's just get you pre-approved, and then this is just kind of what one thing led to another, and it really just kickstarted the whole home buying process for us.
Dude, that's awesome. Well, I'd love to even hear even more, like, before even reaching out to CJ, like, how long did that conversation take between the both of you, even just to get to that point?
Oh, wow. I feel like it was at least a year. We would always talk about just being excited. Oh, I can't wait for us to live together and just create a space together, and just have that lifestyle with one another. And then we always knew from our parents, never rent, like always buy. And we were just, it just felt intimidating to even think about buying a home. But I think the more it became a goal for us to want to live together, that's kind of when we decided to talk to CJ. So I think that those conversations took about at least 6 to 12 months of just kind of talking about it. I don't know how often,
You're right. I think essentially when you grow together in a relationship, that's kind of the goal, right? We progress, and then are we ready for the next step? So it's definitely always conversations, and even just with her being really, creative with her interior design, and then even my own design eye of, we always have talked about that throughout our relationship, and that's what we can share. We're like, oh, that would be sick in the future if we had a couch like this, or a painting like this, or even just a space meant for creative purposes, right? So it's always been in conversation over our relationship. What I'd say at that point prior to buying, like 4.5 to 5 years, right?
Yeah.
So it was always this slow burn. And I really think it's when life, where we are in our careers kind of opened up new doors. Me graduating PT school kind of really set that forward. And then we got to live together during my rotations, like for a short stint. So it really kind of started playing with that idea, like, oh, this is what it would look like to live together, right?
That's very true. Yeah, that it was like the year before even even meeting with CJ.
Yeah.
We finished living together like for a whole year and a half. So it was just
yeah. So we got a little taste of what it felt like to live together during my rotations, and we were out in Denver, Hawaii, and Portland for a good portion of some year and a half. So that I feel like all that just culminates to the edge, the push to say let's actually look into buying a house.
So what it sounds like is like you guys were, you were growing in maturity, not only career wise, but also in your relationships, right? And you've kind of just reached that point where like, hey, what's the next step here? Like we've kind of been living together already for a year. Well, and then also too, like you had brought up like your family, like don't rent, like own. That's huge to have the backing of your family to instill that value in you. Like, why do you think it was important for your family to understand that from their end, that you shouldn't rent and that you should actually look to owning?
Did you want to touch on that, or do you want me to touch on it?
You can touch on it. I know my dad would always talk to you about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, at the end of the day, it really is from their experience, and then trying to see, I guess, if I can summarize it, it really is they got to see the fruits of their labor of what it means to rent versus own, and then what kind of came about it after, you say decades of owning, and my mom was just saying like, it is worth it to own, because technically, some people would say, no, that's not true, but it is coming back to you. You're investing into yourself. And I get that there are different opinions out there saying, well, renting's cheaper. And at the end of the day, like you said, Sunny, when we first started meeting, was if it makes sense for you in your situation, what does your
goals
and your goals, so if that makes sense to rent because it is cheaper and better for you and more, I guess more lucrative for your cash flow, sure. But, also owning, if that makes more sense, like, why not?
Yeah, exactly. Like if you can make it happen, like why not make it happen? And I think definitely that familial belief that owning is better than renting, I think it played a huge role in you guys, coming to the decision to make it happen when, when you've come to maturity in your relationship and also into your career, right? And I've kind of shared with you too as well, like the whole experience of my family and them owning their 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. Like, yeah, in retrospect, 20 or 30 years from now, if they had done things a bit differently, that benefit would have been super magnified, right? And so it might be tougher, especially in the first couple of years of owning, especially once you see that mortgage payment, it might be a little bit of a sacrifice. But, when you fast forward yourself 10 to 20 years from now, this is something that you're definitely not going to regret. You know what I mean?
Agreed. And that, that to me, that reminds me of, right, generational wealth, because coming down the line, my mom and my dad really invested in property. And it wasn't even property investment of like kind of capitalizing on it, but just owning property and things kind of coming down the line. I've always had the mentality, and I've always talked to Nikki about this, how, I want to work hard just like they did and capitalize on that to keep growing and stacking on that property. And, hopefully for our kids and our kids' kids, that it just kind of funnels down that way. Because we're blessed with that from, our immigrant parents working so hard, coming here with nothing and giving us literally like everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so crazy because like, you think about just them being exposed to the game of real estate, especially here in the United States. This is a new game that they're playing, right? And I don't want to say that we're behind, but there's definitely this learning curve that we have to get over in order to play this game successfully, right? And so,
Yeah, definitely.
and you guys have been so amazing ever since the beginning. And I'd love to touch on too as well, like after meeting with CJ and just kind of being curious, like when did the switch or what was it specifically, uh, you know, what specifically triggered you guys where it was like, yeah, we can make this happen now, actually.
Oh gosh. You know what? I think it was after the pre-approval process for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. it was because
Sonny did his job. I'm just kidding.
yeah.
You did your job, man. You
Yeah.
sold us.
Well, I mean, it was the pre-approval process, so we got to understand what our buying power was and our numbers, and but just even running those numbers and then talking to you about it, we were able to feel comfortable that, oh, I can, the numbers make sense within our budget and I can afford it. So I think that that's kind of what made us like push that we needed to be just like move forward with the process. I guess. Yeah.
I agree with Nikki. She once we kind of got the pre-approval process, and you were able to kind of break that down, what that looks like, what numbers we're actually really looking at, and this is kind of your range. It just like one thing led to the next, where you're like saying, "Oh, this is your range," and what you can kind of look at, and then we're like, "Oh, let's just play around with the idea and look around and see what we can really get out there." And that's kind of what it's kind of like that slow roll into, let's go for it.
Yeah.
Nice. So it's really after like realizing like the numbers made sense. It's like, oh, maybe we can make this happen now, and you guys were more open to making it happen now versus the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. I would say so. Definitely, that was a big push.
And going into the house hunting process, right? Shopping for a home, what were like some of the challenges that you guys faced, or any hurdles that you guys can remember facing during that time?
Gosh, house hunting.
You're like, dang, San Diego, this is all you got? Like, I'm like, there's not much out here. Some of the hurdles.
That's real for sure, though. Like thinking about the inventory that we have now versus like even just a year ago. Like, you're right. Like inventory was pretty scarce at the time.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been keeping up, but has it been, increasing inventory wise, or?
Yeah, it has been increasing more than last year for sure.
Good. I think at the time it was, I guess one of the hurdles was, right, like we have these expectations of like pre-approval, how much we're kind of like capped to
like our buying power,
availability for that. And then like, you're imagining your dream home as first homeowners, and you're just saying, oh, I'd love this, I'd like this, and
I want a house,
exactly, like let's just go simple, not even what's there, but like I want a house. And then you're like, oh, never mind, I'm actually kind of more down to 2-bedroom condo or a townhome. You start kind of your expectations start to be chiseled into like reality. And then I think one of the first hurdles where you start looking, I mean, for us, we have to be like, oh, so this is kind of reality of what we are, able to purchase. And just kind of letting that sit in and addressing ourselves to say, like, are we okay with that? Is that part of our vision and our goal? Not necessarily settling, but are we okay with that? And if it's not aligning with our vision, then maybe that would have taking us back to the drawing board to say, hey, let's just save some more, find ways to, get promoted in our companies or make more money, find new streams of income to make that goal. But at the time when we were looking, I think the hurdle was just like, oh, okay, is that about what we can get? Are we okay with that? And then once we got over that, then we say, I wouldn't mind that. Things started becoming like, okay, maybe we should shop around. Maybe we should actually look at places, because I'm actually kind of liking what I'm seeing versus not.
I think too is like we had to figure out what our priorities were as far as our wants and needs when it came to shopping and looking around, and obviously considering with what was available on the market at the time. So whether it was like having parking or a garage or washer and dryer, how many baths. So those were definitely in the conversation that factored into our decision for shopping. So
I think I love that you guys addressed that, because I think that's huge, especially for people that have grown up like in San Diego, right? Like you're used to your family's home, right? Like, you know, my childhood home back then was like $150,000, and now fast forward later, it's like $1 million. Ain't no way that I can afford that as a first time home buyer, right?
Yeah,
And
no.
that becomes a reality for a lot of people. Like how did you learn to navigate that conversation with each other, and was there anything specific that you guys talked through that, you know, helped you come to terms of like the reality of like home ownership for you now versus what you thought it was going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want me to touch up on it?
Yes, I'm trying to think of.
Yeah, I think a lot of the conversation, once we realize our expectations to reality of like, you know, house versus, you know, probably a little bit smaller space, is honestly what is important to us in our life, right? Like, and being able to identify those, what's important to me personally and for you personally, and then us as in a relationship. We wanted to be around family, because, you know, the biggest thing is like, yeah, we can go to, let's say, you know, a little bit more remote area. You know, we have a couple of friends living out in Arizona, a little bit farther, sure, Texas. You can buy a pretty nice house, you know, depending on, you know, what you're pre-approved for. But, you know, we want to be around family, and we wanted to stay in San Diego.
So location was a priority for us.
Right.
Yeah.
Location, family, what's around our community. We still want to be around our community, our close loved ones and friends. And are we willing to, you know, what's the trade-offs there, and what's the compromise there? Those are the conversations that we really had.
And I think we kind of already knew. It wasn't kind of like a surprise to us. So we always knew that living close to family was our main priority.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think everything else from there was we had to just make pros and cons for both. So yeah.
So it was already layered, obviously, of like, hey, you knew that home ownership was important because you already had that instilled value of like, hey, owning is better than renting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then as you got into the reality of like shopping for what home ownership looks like for you in San Diego, because of the limited inventory, you had to have a refining conversation with each other on like, okay, what is really important to us right now? Well, number one is family. And so if we keep those two things important, that I want to be a homeowner and I want to, you know, be closer to our family, then we might have to sacrifice a little bit or come to terms of like the actual property that we can buy, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Correct.
You found the home, and you guys have been doing amazing things with designing the home. So where can people find out more about like how you've decked out your home so far?
It's called Home with Nicks, but we're gonna change it to Home with Nicks and Navs.
People look out for homes with nicks and navs, right?
Yeah,
That's awesome. How did you feel after like knowing that you got your offer accepted?
Oh man, where were we when we were offered? You were at work.
I was at work.
You were at work, yeah.
So I think the whole process was
very unconventional.
Yeah, unconventional.
Yeah.
Things moved along pretty fast and seamless though. Fast and seamless with, you know, working with you, Sunny, and with CJ. But hearing the news of our offer being accepted, I was at work and my phone was blowing up. I was with a patient at the time. I could just feel my phone. I was like, I'm pretty sure they got it, and they knew. And it was my mom and Nikki
and my dad.
Her parents being able to be like kind of spearheading everything while I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be like not on my phone, and I'll check it obviously at the moment I can.
Because it happened so fast. Because we didn't expect it to get accepted that day. So it was very fast paced. But the moment it happened, we were just. We were excited for sure. Of course. But it was just very speechless. It was very unbelievable.
I'm like sitting in a meeting room, a conference room, like looking at my phone after, you know, a patient I saw. And I said, "Is this real? Like is this happening?"
Yeah, it was crazy because there was so much going on at that time. Like just even that day and that month is holidays, is Christmas. I think it was like 2 days before Christmas. And then we were planning to leave for Japan in 3 days, and then on top of that, buying a house. So it was just
Oh wow, you guys are. I forgot about that. You were in
yeah,
Japan while buying a house. That's insane.
Yes.
it was there. So it was
Yes.
just a lot going on, all amazing things, of course. So I think just the getting the offer being accepted, it was just, it felt even more crazy of what was going on.
Yeah, that's
But
right. Yeah, exactly. Like everything, planning for our big trip, internationally, plus holiday season, all the, parties and making sure everything's, all our gifts and stuff. And then plus on top of this, you guys definitely really helped us in that time. So it was a lot of emotions. But yeah, that's, I think the initial emotion for sure was
Man,
unbelievable.
you guys handled that like really well. Like it's just hitting me now. Like you guys were in Japan, and I remember like talking with Siege, like, "Yo, dude, like this is crazy." Like they're buying a home while they're in Japan, and like I'm just trying to recall like if we had any hurdles or anything like that, but it went really smooth,
Yes.
surprisingly.
it did. Yeah. I mean, we still talk about it till this day because I just remember it would be, I don't remember the time difference, but it would be very significant where we would, it was, I think it was probably 10, 11 p.m. at night our time, and we would have to sign a Google Doc, or not a Google Doc, a DocuSign.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, it was just go, go, go all the time. But we were really thankful that like CJ and you were very communicative the entire time. Even if we sent you guys emails at 3 a.m. your time, or texts that were at 3 a.m. your time, like we all made it work, and it was a very seamless process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I think the systems that both you guys have in play, even before we flew out, they're like, hey, we got to get you, power of attorney type of stuff, and a notary, all those things prior even leaving made it like that much more of an easier process. While we were out there in Japan, like I think there was one time we came home like at like 2 a.m. because we were out, checking out Shibuya with all our friends, and then we're on the train, we get back into the Airbnb. We're like, oh, we have to sign something right now.
That's insane.
An insane
I
process.
can tell you it definitely takes a lot of teamwork, and the fact that you guys, even though you were on vacation, willing to handle all of that, definitely makes a huge difference. And I can definitely speak on behalf of like my team and also CJ as well. Like we need all our clients to be like you guys, and so appreciate you guys for making it happen. Now, after obviously 1 year of home ownership, what are like a couple of things that you guys have realized in being like any huge big realizations in being homeowner?
I'm still stuck on the fact that I'm a homeowner.
Yeah, that this place is ours and everything is our responsibility. That's one of the biggest realizations that I still have every day. But yeah, I mean, I think a big realization, just in a good way, in a good way, is that we just have our home together. We have a space that we can call ours, and yeah, we always lived at home with our parents, so it was just super exciting, and it's a realization every day sometimes that we get to look around and be like, this is our home. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, I mean, if I can design or decorate my home just like you guys, I'd probably be super happy. So yeah.
Yeah, it's yeah, I think that's like the best thing is that it's only been a year, but like every day we get to come home and really be like, this is our space, and really take care of it in the way that we want, and I think it's just such a blessing to be able to do that. Yeah.
If you could go back, what's one thing you would do differently?
Yeah, if I could go back in time, I would buy in 2008. while I was in high
I would
school.
buy 10 years ago.
Yeah, or buy during COVID when interest rates were really low.
Right. Insane.
Like as far as something I wish I did differently, um, I maybe wish we got to shop around longer or shop around more, but um, I feel like we're really happy with what we chose and what we were
Yeah.
able to buy, considering we only saw like 3 spots and
It's like 3 or 4, yeah.
yeah. So,
I
but
think
Great location too.
yeah,
yeah, it's like, of course, like in a perfect world, like, oh, maybe more time and more spots to look
yeah,
at. But then, like, you think about it, right? Everything kind of just happens for a reason, and you end up in people that have purchased the homes, like things just kind of happen the way that it does. And then you say, oh, like that's just the way it was written out, right?
mm,
And, we're really thankful for it. But nothing that we would change completely.
yeah,
In regret. Everything was like honestly kind of the way it happened was almost written out the way it was supposed
yeah.
to.
It
So it
felt
was
like
great.
it was our first time buying a home, so just knowledge and experience would be like anyone else's first time.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really happy we had you and CJ just leading us and making us feel reassured and just confident in just moving forward with every step of the way.
The last question. What's the best advice you can give someone that's looking to start their first time home buyer journey?
Definitely talk to CJ and Sunny.
Definitely work with Sunny.
He's not paying me to say this. I'm just letting you know. I think, ask questions. Don't be afraid to kind of step in to ask questions because at least working with CJ and Sunny, I think with anyone shouldn't ever force you to make any decisions you're not prepared to. But to find guidance and knowledge in the right places and asking people, like it doesn't hurt to ask questions, kind of just like how we did, and one thing led to the next, right? But I think gaining knowledge, asking as many questions as you can about why things are,
voicing your concerns.
Yeah, what does it look like, even for your own anyone's specific situation, and then even just kind of come in with an open mind, with everything, considering everything, because it's such a new process for us when we're like, oh, like what does it look like to be pre-approved even? What is it? What is even that process?
Mm-hmm.
And in a year we got thrown into so much lingo I've heard of but never really understood. And I'm like, oh, okay, I get that, what that means now in context, right? So I think first thing is just be curious and ask many questions, and any like do your research, but also get connected with people that will talk about it with you to learn. Like there's so much like we don't even know that we're learning every day, even after being homeowners for a year. So get connected and just ask questions to start.
That's awesome. Yeah, so I mean really just to have a healthy curiosity, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you guys for sharing your story. And where can people find you and find your next gig?
Oh, on Instagram. You can follow us. Follow us. You can you can follow us. He's at Nathaniel Nabs and I'm at Nix. But we DJ with a crew called Hickeys and Dry Humps.
Let's go.
And be on the lookout for us. We're hopefully nearest YouTube near you. You'll find us with a channel and soon. So little plug.
In our living room.
Let's go. That's awesome. I can't wait. I'm definitely gonna. If is gonna be DJing.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Dude, we need that so that we can play those jams at the open houses, please.
Oh,
perfect.
yes.
We're
like like your passive
these are my clients.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, these are homeowners and they're DJs.
Exactly.
Cool.
Yeah, no, and we'll definitely have mixes up for that type of setting too.
Oh yeah,
it's gonna be that's kind of the next next goal.
Hey, it can be any setting. If if the open house guests start twerking, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah, you're like, hey, that's a good spot right over there, right?
They're happy.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for hopping on.
Mhm.